Coming up on the Week in Review, funeral services for Reverend Jesse Jackson in Chicago, the impact of the Iran conflict in Chicago, shots fired at Chicago police, plus the Bears make a big move, Jake's interview with Ryan Gosling on the side of a road, and AI makes its mark on the weather. This is your Fox Chicago Week in Review.
And you know what's interesting? I know Mike Kaplan has been talking about the forecast, rain, a little lightning possibly out there, and of course the fog. That has not stopped this crowd from gathering. People are still in line, pouring into the House of Hope. And in fact, Saquon has been there. She watched people start coming in at around 9 this morning. It's 34 minutes after the hour, Saquon. Tell us about how many people have come in, since those doors opened.
Well, guys, there have been a lot of people who have walked in through these doors. And, it's the standard process for an event that draws tens of thousands of people, right? They have to screen, they have to take their jackets off, they have to be checked with all of their bags and their items. So this is quite a process. And I think for the folks, I can see right now, there are still folks outside, not even really in the door area. So it's definitely going to take some time and definitely some patience with that as well. I will say, though, I've seen some people heading over to the merch tent behind me. They're starting to sell things like T-shirts and sweatshirts. Actually, in line this morning, I was talking to a gentleman who had a pin that had a picture of Reverend Jesse Jackson and, the dates of from when he was born to when he passed. And people are making this a thing. People are selling pins. People are sharing their stories. It's been really incredible to see, and I'm sure it would not shock me if these people in line, as they're waiting to get inside, just like everybody else, I'm sure they are sharing stories of the Reverend as well. Actually, I was one of those people. I was in the bathroom this morning and just washing my hands, and some woman came up to me and said, "It's a big day. We're all here for the same thing." And these are exactly the conversations these people are having. Energy is very high right now as well. There was like a dance party out there. There was a DJ truck that pulled up in the parking lot, music blasting this morning. People were dancing in line. So energy is very high and up right now. As you mentioned, I've been talking with so many different people this morning, and it's been so insane hearing some of these stories of them meeting the Reverend or of them running into the Reverend. I actually met a mom and a son. So you think about the age difference there. And we actually heard from this gentleman first who talked about how he learned about Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. in the classrooms. Listen to this.
So it's a pleasure to say that I know the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson because he inspired a dream inside of me. As a young student at Langston University, when he first ran for, or second time he ran for president, we were encouraged to have him visit the campus. We were encouraged to jump on and encourage all of our friends to come out and vote and get registered to vote. That was a big deal. And so that dream sort of landed in our lap, and I would later go on and get myself involved in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, where one of our main goals is voting. And so to be able to go into our communities and encourage people to vote, encourage people to stand for justice, and encourage people to understand that your neighbor is just as important as your family is. And that's what Reverend Jackson left a dream and a hope for us for all of these years. And we're going to continue.
I would say work on that squirrel a little bit more, though.
For more than 3 decades, Larry Roberts Jr. has built more than a business. The barber turned entrepreneur has built a legacy.
I have 12 barber school licenses, so 12 barber schools, including the jails and the juvenile. And I have shops in 2 Walmart locations.
But the journey didn't begin with 12 schools. It started with a 13-year-old boy from Chicago who knew exactly what he wanted.
Let's talk about how we got here. When did you start cutting hair? How old?
I started cutting hair when I was 13 years old. I told my parents this is what I wanted to do. So at 17, I went to barber school. I was still a senior in high school.
Before middle school was over, he had already found his calling. Before most teenagers were thinking about careers, he was building one. And as his name grew, so did the rooms he was invited into. Not every haircut happened inside a barbershop. Some clients required privacy, trust, and discretion.
We have to touch everybody. Being a celebrity barber, servicing a lot of different clients, and you just never ever know the people who are looking at you, because they had to call me and ask me to cut the Reverend's hair.
One of the most defining moments of Robert's life happened quietly inside the home of civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson. It would be the last time he ever cut his hair. A photo captured the moment, one that would mean even more later.
I was the last person to cut his hair, before he, transitioned. Definitely was an honor for me. I kind of kissed him on the top of his head, and told him I loved him, and he grabbed my hand. This particular time, he held it a little bit longer, I would say, and I just kind of felt something different at that time.
Roberts grew up listening to Jackson's speeches at Operation Push, hearing chants.
In a barbershop, we listened to that push, I am somebody and all of that, so, I go way back as it relates to that.
Those words stayed with Roberts.
What kind of impact did those messages have on you?
Well, the impact that they had on me is having a school on the 79th Street, having businesses and schools in the Wild Hundreds that I've been, around this area for almost 30 years now. Hearing him speak and talk about certain things gave me more empathy and compassion for the people that come in, asking for a job. It just kind of gave me more empathy and compassion for helping people outside of the $2 or $3. Not just giving them a job or not just giving them $5 or $10, but what can I do in order to help you to be self-sustainable?
That compassion he learned decades ago is now taking physical shape. A brand new ground-up trade school, part of his Larry's Barbershop brand, rising from the soil of Chicago's Washington Heights neighborhood.
So you see how it's graduated right there? Yep. You want that to be able to graduate all the way from here.
For the past year, Robert served as Jackson's barber, and with that came an up-close and personal view as Jackson's health slowly declined.
What made you know that was the last time?
I think it was like a vibe, because when I was turning to walk away, they pretty much said, hey, the Reverend wants you. And that's when he reached out his hand and I grabbed his hand and he kind of held it really, really tight. And something seemed different, right? But this particular time I kind of, hugged him, and it was kind of that interaction just kind of let me know, maybe the time was nearing.
The haircut didn't come with a price tag, because for Larry Roberts Jr., being in the room with Reverend Jesse Jackson wasn't about money. It was about service, honoring a man whose voice lifted generations for a lifetime.
Absolutely, absolutely. If they would have tried to give me anything, I would have left it behind or whatever, because you couldn't pay me, because they could have called anybody else to service this man. They could have called anybody else, but they called me, and it was definitely an honor. It was my pleasure, and it was definitely a joy to be able to service him.
Tensions in the Middle East are high after weekend attacks by the U.S. and Iran that took out the nation's supreme leader.
President Trump says the U.S. military is, quote, knocking the crap out of Iran, and that, a quote, a big wave has yet to come.
Yeah, it is. The question ahead is the U.S. headed for war? Joni is downtown with local reaction. Joni?
Well, the people are taking to the streets. There's going to be an emergency protest here at the corner of Congress and Michigan this evening to protest war on Iran. Meanwhile, Iran is promising retaliation against Americans. So here in Chicago, law enforcement is on alert. There have been numerous anti-war protests in response to the U.S. bombings on Iran. Iranian Americans are thanking President Trump for taking action against a brutal regime. Iran has retaliated with strikes on Bahrain, Dubai, and Israel, as well as American military bases in the region. So there is concern for the safety of Americans traveling and here at home. Mayor Brandon Johnson says Chicago police are planning for public safety.
My concerns for Chicago is what it always is, to ensure that we are safe. Been in constant communications with our superintendent and counterintelligence to ensure the safety and security of the residents of this city.
And demonstrators plan to take over the street at 6 p.m. Chicago police say there is no actionable intelligence related to Chicago, but they are paying special attention to houses of worship. Reporting live downtown, Joey Well.
Attorneys for a Chicago woman accused of murder pleaded for those charges to be dropped, arguing self-defense. It was an outcome they were hoping for, but did not come away with. Defense attorneys say Keisha Golden endured abuse in her relationship and that she acted in self-defense when she stabbed her then-boyfriend, Calvin Sidney, in the leg. Golden's lawyers argue that Golden, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, was defending herself during an argument. It happened back in 2022. Golden's attorneys say Sidney attacked her. Prosecutors say family members separated them, after which Golden allegedly went into their bedroom and stabbed Sidney in the leg, striking a major artery. Golden's lawyers say more than 50 domestic violence calls had previously been made from the couple's home. But today, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office declined to drop Keisha Golden's first-degree murder charges, instead offering her a lesser charge of second-degree murder.
Women are 6 times more likely to be killed by an intimate partner than men. Yet, homicide committed by men is 10% more likely to be ruled justifiable.
We are very disappointed today that the state's attorney has not agreed to dismiss the charges on Keisha's case. We are asking that a woman whose only crime was to fight for her life and the life of her unborn child be dismissed.
That plea deal comes with a 24-month probation and a felony conviction that would stay with Golden. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office says they cannot comment on this case as it is still in legal proceedings. There is another court date scheduled in early April.
We're getting reports of shots fired at Chicago police. Saquon is live on the scene with the latest. Good morning, Say.
Hey, good morning. Well, things have certainly developed over the last half hour or so. I'll step aside so you can see investigators are now making their rounds. They've actually started putting evidence markers on the ground here as they, of course, wait for this investigation to kind of start. We have not necessarily seen any tow trucks or anything like that quite yet, which is going to be big because obviously that car has rolled over. It's on its side currently. It's actually on a sidewalk right now. And you can see there are 2 other cars that may have been involved in this as well. The black SUV there with the back window smashed out. And then this gray Ford sedan as well with some damage to the front end there. We also know that there is, we've seen some shell casings here in this area. We also saw a gun on the ground. That's actually right where an evidence marker has been placed, right by that police officer over there. So there's going to be a lot to comb through when it comes to this investigation. We also know that they're likely going to be combing through some surveillance footage as well. There's actually a Chicago police surveillance camera right above where that car rolled over. And keep in mind too, these are surrounded by apartment buildings that also have surveillance cameras. So likely going to be a big focus here in this investigation. As you mentioned though, we do know that there are reports of shots being fired. We have not been able to confirm that information, and we also don't necessarily know if that's connected to this rollover crash as well. We have reached out to Chicago police. They have said in the last 20 minutes or so that they will release more information when they can get it. But this is what we're seeing right now. Once again, investigators are here now kind of combing through some of the evidence. They're making their rounds, but this is going to be something that will take definitely a few hours, especially if they want to open this road back up. This happened a little bit after 6 o'clock this morning, and we know that 76th is closed all the way down. So in order for them to be able to open this back up, of course, a tow truck needs to get here to clear all of these cars out of the way. We are still waiting for that investigation. We've also asked Chicago police for that footage right above.
Coming up, the Bears trade superstar DJ Moore, data centers and their impact in Chicago, and concerns over a new public bathroom in Wicker Park.
The Bears just made a big move. DJ Moore reportedly traded to the Bills. Cassie Carlson joins us now with the latest.
Yeah, this really doesn't come as a surprise this offseason, given the cap constraints that the Bears were dealing with, being over the cap and free agency starting next week. But the Bears are going to send DJ Moore and a 2026 fifth-round pick to Buffalo, and in return, they're going to get Buffalo's 2026 second-round pick. So they now have draft capital heading into the draft this year with 4 picks in the top 89. And we say this is no surprise because DJ Moore was going to be the highest-paid player on the roster next season, and that's coming off a year where he had his least productive year in the NFL. He spent 3 seasons in Chicago. His most productive year came under Justin Fields as quarterback, and the chemistry between him and Caleb Williams never truly clicked, although there were some key and big monumental moments that we will never forget, as you see that throw right there. That was part of a touchdown to send Green Bay packing. He had the walk-off touchdown against the Packers in overtime. Many moments, but you look at the wide receiver room for the Bears right now and the direction this team is headed. They have a lot of young guys in that room. They have
DJ, by the way. What does it mean for the offense, though?
I mean, Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, their chemistry never fully hit. But I think right now you look at Rome Odunze, a former top 10 pick. You look at Luther Burden, who is part of Ben Johnson's first draft class, really emerged in the second half of the season. Similar play style to DJ Moore, and you feel like that's going to be the future of this offense right now. And then everyone's wondering who their number 1 wide receiver is. You could look to the tight end room and Colston Loveland, who could be their top receiver next season.
A lot of fans love that guy.
Yes. And everyone was questioning why they drafted him 10th overall last year. Well, he was the most productive rookie in the NFL, you could argue.
And outside of that, people loved his energy as well. So
yeah,
that was nice.
From Hobart.
If you go forward with this data center, you're going to get a mass exodus.
To Naperville.
You'll hear today loud and clear over and over that your constituents do not want a data center in this location.
To Lisle. To Aurora. To Yorkville. Data centers are on city council agendas across the Chicago area. And residents are showing up in big numbers to let their local leaders know how they feel about data centers being built in their town.
Everyone's angry. This will be your guys' last terms if you do not vote with us.
Most people look at the data centers as this imminent threat to the environment and to their livability of cities and in small communities.
Dr. Tommy Zekaruski is an adjunct environmental engineering professor at the Illinois Institute of Technology. He's also known as a building scientist who works with hyperscale data centers to help them minimize their impact on the environment.
I believe that there's this misunderstanding or not enough information to really understand what the purpose of these data centers are and how they connect to the community and the offerings that they give us in terms of our digital lives these days.
He says one misunderstanding is this: whenever you click or swipe or stream, that information is usually being stored in the cloud, and the cloud isn't where you probably think it is.
What most people don't understand, that data center is the cloud. The cloud is something that we use to describe that data center. It's sort of like a metaphor for the internet.
And then when I saw, again, what was happening in Naperville, I'm like, I think somebody needs to go and just, if nothing else, I decided after seeing how people were coming, it's like, I think they need to know more about what it's like to live with it.
Laura Evans lives in Aurora. She can see and hear a data center from the deck in her backyard. She says it's about 1,000 yards away. Aurora approved Cyrus One's plans for a data center back in 2017. She had concerns back then. Laura said she was told at a city council meeting not to worry. The data center was going to be a great neighbor who would be quiet and unassuming.
What they're saying is not going to be what's going to happen, because that's exactly what they were being told is what we were told. No, yes, there's going to be noise. Yes, the generators are going to be running. Yes, the fans are going to run. And yes, you're going to hear it. And yes, there is health concerns. I mean, I can't tell if if we're going to develop cancer now that we had generators running this year. I don't know. But it is something that there's a lot of studies being done, and it could happen. So let's be aware of it and be a little more proactive. And I think that all the data centers need to slow down and start doing things right instead of trying to rush to put in.
This is just a brief look at this issue, and if you want to see our full in-depth special report, go to fox32chicago.com and Fox Local. So this is just the start of our continuing in-depth coverage on this very topic. So in the coming weeks, we're going to take an in-depth look at how the number of data centers are impacting your utility bills. You've probably seen a lot of them go up where you live. We're also going to show you how it's impacting the environment and what's being done to make data centers more environmentally friendly and more accountable.
They have them in Europe, they have them in San Francisco, and the plan is to have one right here at the intersection of Milwaukee, Division, and Ashland. It is known as the Polish Triangle, but it will be the place to go. Residents of Wicker Park gathered at Nick's Beer Garden tonight to talk about toilets. First Ward Alderman Daniel Espada wasn't there, but he says this is the most popular policy issue he's ever worked on, and people should be able to go to the bathroom when they need to. So it's going to be near the CTA Blue Line, a convenient location, but that is what bothers neighbors. At the meeting, they voiced concerns about safety and security. The restroom, made by the bus shelter company J.C. Deco, has antibacterial coating, and it is flushed with water between uses.
Their whole approach is to flood everything with water. You know, seriously. It gets mighty cold out there. And yeah, and with no monitoring. And if something goes wrong, supposedly Deco is responsible for that, at least in this pilot. But that doesn't mean they're going to have people on the ground.
And the residents say there's a number of unhoused people here at this location. Some say that's great. It would be good for them to be able to use it. But neighbors believe that that facility might invite drug use and other criminal behavior. The alderman's office indicates that it will be open and functional by the end of the year.
This could be the future of on-demand delivery. This summer, Amazon is preparing to launch this drone delivery service in Markham and Matson. And today we got to see what could soon be flying over your neighborhood. Now, the drone itself is a whole lot bigger than we expected, weighing in at about 80 pounds. Community members also got a first look today at the Tinley Park Convention Center where it was on display. When the service goes live, residents who live within an 8-mile radius of the Markham and Matson Amazon distribution centers will be able to select the drone delivery option. There is an extra fee of $4.99 for Prime members, and items will be delivered within 2 hours. The drone itself won't land, but will hover close to the ground and release the package. They'll only operate during daylight hours. The drones are fully autonomous, but will be monitored by a Prime Air team. There is no set launch date just yet, but expect the service to take flight this summer.
If you select it, then you will get basically an aerial image of your house, like a Google Earth look of your property. It'll have predetermined delivery points, and you can select which one. A lot of people prefer the backyard because it is safer, a lot more private, so people prefer that. Check out like normal Amazon order, and within 2 hours, you'll see this coming over your yard and dropping off your package for you.
There will be 12 drones stationed at each warehouse. They will only be able, though, to deliver one package at a time. The service is already launched in other cities, including the Detroit area and Kansas City.
The city successfully secured and managed the Democratic National Convention 50,000 people were in the city for. Now, some folks that work downtown, they stay completely away, and suburbanites avoided the area altogether. Businesses inside the secured perimeter told us they felt the impact, something city leaders will have to weigh if Chicago wants to host another major political convention.
I think that the things that give us an advantage in this convention, why our proposal and our bid looks so competitive with the other cities in contention, is because of our strong labor force, our ability to raise money here in the city. You know, we had enough money for this convention in terms of what was raised to be able to put money back out on the streets.
Bob Ryder knows all about the Democratic National Convention when it was here in Chicago. In 2024, he was there to help solidify labor agreements. Now the Chicago Host Committee wants to bring the DNC back in the year 2028 or 2032. Other cities vying for their chance includes Atlanta, Boston, Denver, and Las Vegas. The economic impact was felt, bringing in $371.4 million, the most in convention history.
We were watching last night and it went late, and so that just makes for a later evening. People aren't necessarily thinking restaurant dinner top of mind because they're there to hear those remarks and see what those people have to say.
And you'll remember, not all restaurants saw the windfall they were expecting. Some business owners and residents say they also felt the impact of being inside the secured perimeter, with street closures, checkpoints, and restricted access affecting foot traffic.
Now, we do know that it was, a little challenging, but because we did it in 2024, we think we can work with the DNC to make sure that restaurants in our central business district do benefit even more. Attendees going to Pilsen, going to Logan Square, going to Lakeview, going to Little Village.
Well, a budget breakdown shows the $75 million in federal security funding Chicago received through the Department of Justice for 2024 went mostly to police, with additional support for fire and emergency management. City leaders say that money was critical to keeping the event safe, but some worry similar funding may not be available under the current Republican administration.
The standing ovation, the fireworks, and groundbreaking.
For too long, the Chicago Fire have been a sleeping giant.
The commitment to championships.
And an integral part of that is to have our own stadium.
And the investment in Chicago.
And it's a whole mindset shift.
We are going to pick up some dirt.
Chicago Fire FC broke ground for their new stadium at the 78 Tuesday, located along the Chicago River, south of Roosevelt Road and west of Clark. It will have 22,000 seats for Fire games with a natural grass playing surface.
On a privately funded, soccer-specific stadium in the beautiful city of Chicago.
The team expects this $750 million project to also bring about 1,000 new jobs to the city for this 62-acre stretch of land.
Today is a demonstration of what is possible when private investment align with public goals for jobs, neighborhood activation, and long-term economic growth.
And Mayor, there is only one football.
Chicago Fire FC expects to start playing here in 2028. And while Mayor Brandon Johnson praised team owner Joe Mansueto for staying in Chicago and building a stadium here at the 78 that's privately funded, it appears that he had some comments directed at the Chicago Bears.
I will say that it is so good to make sure at least one of our football teams in Chicago is good. One more to go.
So last year, I think 3 times we got pushed out to the suburbs due to conflicts with the Bears and concerts. Not ideal.
Team owner Joe Mansueto makes the move from tenant to owner with a vision of getting back to the MLS Cup.
Coming up, Jake's bus breaks down and Ryan Gosling is concerned. Your search history could cost you cash, and how to deal with the time change.
When you think you're just going to have a normal day at work, you think again, because sometimes your tour bus breaks down in the middle of the desert and you end up interviewing Ryan Gosling with sand in your shoes.
Ryan, good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
Are you in a volcano?
Okay, so I'm actually in the middle of my own Project Hail Mary because I was rushing back from a tour of the Grand Canyon to do this interview, and we broke down on the side of the road.
No!
And I am on the side of the road surrounded by Rocky's family.
There's like 4 cars on a trailer just went by behind you. Just get one of those.
Obviously, I would do anything not to miss an interview with you, man. So I appreciate you still taking the time.
And you look like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, like the one where he's climbing.
I don't know if we can pan over. Like that's literally that's my bus over there full of people, and we're broken.
Oh, it's a bus.
I'd love to know, even though there are 3 different films in space, how are the acting experiences different for you?
Do you have help on the way?
I love the concern. Jake, I love how you turned a disaster into one of the most talked about interviews of the year so far.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, guys, all of us, everyone, all 4 of you would have done the exact same thing. When you get into this business, you learn that you got to do whatever it takes. And we were coming back from the Grand Canyon and we had timed it out. I knew that I would have time to get back to Vegas and get set up in my hotel room and kind of pull up a shot like this and do something to pull off this interview. And the moment I heard that tire pop, I thought, well, time for plan B. And it was kind of perfect because this movie that he's promoting is all about a guy who is stuck and needs to figure out what the next move is. So it kind of weirdly all tied together.
You went method. Method.
What was your thoughts? Because it looked like he couldn't stay focused on the interview.
Yeah.
He was more concerned about you. And was that your first time interviewing him before?
No, I've knock on wood. I've been able to interview him a couple of times. In fact, he's come in studio. He's been sitting right where you guys are. My greatest fear is that I was going to walk away and the entire interview was going to be about me. We've all kind of done those interviews where you got to kind of pull people back and get on focus. And even when the interview ended, I had a lot of apprehension about, like, did we just talked about me too much? And listen, that often can be my favorite topic. So when I start to think it's too much about me, we've crossed a line, but I did my best to try to talk about the movie, and he did my best to talk about everything but.
Okay, well, let's circle back to you, though. Did you guys eventually get rescued? What happened?
No, we're still there. This is just No, it took a couple of hours, but we finally got out there. Shout out to my family. My mom and sister were there, and they were kind of keeping people from coming over there, in the background of the interview. And then my girlfriend Iris was the one holding the cell phone, holding the camera. And in fact, he had a really sweet moment with her. There she is. Look how beautiful she is. Where she got to kind of have an interaction with her, and then his wife Eva Mendes ended up posting yesterday, Jake, are you and Iris okay? Did you guys ever make it out? So it took a while, and I got to give a shout out to Iris. The moment that interview was over, she looked at me and she said, "You realize that's going to go viral, right?" And I didn't expect it to be this reaction, but it's been a really sweet 24 hours or so.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So,
exactly right. Right. It's what we do.
Yeah. So when Ryan started focusing on safety rather than the movie, you talked about trying to bring him back to focusing on the movie. But at the same time, were you like, is this really happening right now?
You know what? If it were any other actor, I think I would have been genuinely shocked. But, he's always been that kind of guy. He and I have always had really fun, quirky interviews. I remember when he came in studio, he kept kind of, talking to everybody, that was around. I remember he and Caitlin Cody were talking a lot whenever he came in. And you know what? There were so many factors that just, if it hadn't been the way it was, this whole thing would have been derailed. A different actor probably wouldn't have played into it as much as he did. Maybe wouldn't have even been as genuinely concerned. I think Harrison Ford maybe would have been annoyed with me for doing that. But you know what? That if you've ever done that drive before between Vegas and the Grand Canyon, you know that a majority of that drive, 95% of it has no cell phone signal whatsoever. A huge portion of that drive, there is nowhere to get off on the shoulder and get off the bus. So there are so many things that could have kept this interview from happening. But he truly was, honest to God, it wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been him. All credit goes to him.
Well, this is a pricing tactic that is widespread when you shop online. Talking about companies using your personal data, your search history, even your mouse movements to charge you the highest possible amount they can get away with. This is called algorithmic pricing. And now Illinois lawmakers are pushing back on behalf of consumers. State Rep Evadina Delgado is among them, and she joins us this morning to tell us how. Evadina, thank you for being here. Let me start off by asking you this. It's called House Bill 4544. What does it actually do?
So it essentially requires any businesses that are using algorithmic pricing to disclose that to folks who are using those sites and shopping.
Okay. How is it bad for, I kind of ran through the basics of this, but how is it bad for consumers, this algorithmic pricing?
So when businesses use algorithmic pricing to set your prices, consumers don't have all the information they need to make good decisions. So when you're a good consumer, you spend time researching, you spend time looking up different prices for things that you want to purchase. But if that pricing process is hidden, that means that consumers lose their ability to shop around and find the best deal. And we think that sunlight is a cost control measure. And so when companies have to be honest about how they're pricing, that means that purchasers and consumers are in a better position to make good decisions.
That really does make sense. So you can at least see behind the curtain a little bit if this measure passes, correct?
That's correct. And
Okay.
there are enforcement pieces associated with this as well. So we would give the Attorney General, who is our Chief Consumer Protection Officer, the ability to go after companies who don't follow these rules.
Let's see. Would you say that this is a widespread practice? Like I'm thinking of when I book an airline ticket, for example. I'm always wondering, oh no, I don't want to leave the page and come back to the page. But how widespread is this?
Yes, I think a lot of companies are starting to do this now, and you'll see it in places other than online purchases. You'll see it in grocery stores as well. You'll see it in big box stores, trying to gather information about the folks that are the consumers that are purchasing these things. But yeah, just like with anything else, if you're buying a big ticket item, like for example, buying a television, you're doing some research. You're trying to figure out where can I find the best price. And a lot of these retailers, particularly online retailers, are gathering data about the people who are shopping and trying to find ways to elicit the largest price, the highest price that they could get, so that they can boost their own profits.
One more question. Is there any roadmap for this? Because I'm just wondering if, this goes into effect, companies kind of rethink how they're using this and how they're presenting themselves to the public. And if it is actually going to have the effect where they say, hey, you know what, we're going to play it straight here. We're at least going to disclose this, or we're not going to do it at all to affect these consumers.
Yeah, so we've seen a couple of laws go into effect already. New York, I know, has passed a law that has laid out restrictions on how companies can use algorithmic pricing. So I think a lot of companies are starting to see that we're catching up to them, and we are wanting to regulate this in the best way possible for consumers to make it the safest way that a consumer can go out and make purchases.
What, any idea on what aesthetically it would actually look like if we're on our computer and we go to a site? Would there be a little alert like you are being tracked? Like, how would that work?
Yes, I think that is exactly right. So if you are shopping, that the company would then have to disclose to you that they are using algorithmic pricing to make pricing decisions. And so that would be possibly a pop-up on your screen. It could be signage in a brick and mortar store, just a way to alert the consumer that algorithmic pricing is part of how the company is making pricing decisions.
All right. So what is next? I know there's a pair of bills that are teaming up to get this done. What's the status and next steps before we let you go?
Of course. So I'm working with my colleagues. We are coming together and coming up with the best possible approach. And we'll be sending that to committee, hopefully in the next couple of weeks when we're back down in Springfield, and begin to have what I consider is a good discussion around how we make this happen and how we protect consumers in Illinois.
All right, it's the ritual that some of us kind of love to hate. This weekend, we will spring forward into daylight saving time. But while the extra sunlight is nice, some of our internal clocks kind of pay a price. Here to help us prepare is Dr. James Rowley, Director of the Sleep Medicine Fellowship at Rush. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Let's talk about kind of the simple question, how should people prepare for the time shift?
Yes, the simplest thing you could do is to start going to bed a few minutes early every night this week, so that by Saturday night, you'd be sort of an hour ahead already. So maybe starting Wednesday or so, you could go to bed about 15 minutes earlier each night. Another suggestion is that on Saturday night, to actually go to reset your clocks in your house earlier and then go to bed when would be your normal bedtime. And that just helps get you going correctly. And then finally, Sunday morning and the next few days after that, get up in the morning, get some sunshine. Hopefully it won't be raining. And that will also help set your clocks for the week.
All right, I like those three things there. We're always thinking about the kids, right? How about for people with kids in the house? What's some advice for them?
They should just get on the same routine as you. So they should start going to bed a little bit earlier as well. That might be hard if you have adolescents who are naturally wanting to go to bed later. But if your kids are in the, a toddler to 10 to 12-year-old range, just put them to bed a little bit earlier every night as well. And that should help them clue in when Sunday comes along.
Yeah, the teenagers, they seem to do what they want. We talk about it every year, doctor, but here again, there's legislation to do a permanent DST. What does that mean, and would it really be better for our health?
So it is the position of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine that we should be on permanent standard time. Permanent daylight time, if we were to do that, would mean that after we made the switch at the end of the week, we would permanently stay in that time. But there is good evidence that this is not good for us biologically. It would mean less sunshine in the morning. Sunshine in the morning, one, helps us get our day going, but more importantly, helps sets our circadian clock during the day and helps us actually to fall asleep earlier. Also, having permanent daylight savings time will mean a lot of darkness in the morning. If people are upset with being dark at 7:30, it will be 8:30, or often in parts of the United States that it will still be dark in the morning. And that's also not safe for our kids who walk to school, people driving in the morning. So we feel that our body is best aligned when we are on permanent standard time.
Dr. Selfishly, for all of us, who are watching at home too, we have to ask you just some free medical advice. For people who have trouble sleeping, all right, what's your number one piece of advice? Doesn't matter with daylight saving time. What's your number one piece of advice just to do before bed to kind of settle down and maybe sleep better at night?
Yeah, one should definitely take some time to relax and not be working, probably not being on your laptop anymore. There's this new thing called doom scrolling, that you're spending too much time looking at things at night that just worry you, especially with everything going on right now. So get off your electronics, maybe watch a little TV, read a book, but do something relaxing for yourself for about the hour before you go to bed.
Coming up, AI's big impact on weather forecasts. Celebrate St. Patrick with the Chicago Wolves. And wrapping up the Actors Awards.
AI is not so quietly becoming one of the most powerful tools in today's society, and it's no different in the science community. Meteorologists rely on physics-based computer models to predict the weather, but major advances in AI could make those forecasts faster and even more accurate. Pedram Hassanzadeh is an associate professor of geophysical sciences and computational applied math at the University of Chicago. In 2017, Hassanzadeh began researching AI, particularly deep learning, to investigate how AI models can be used to improve weather climate prediction. He calls AI the second revolution in weather forecasting.
It's completely changing how we do weather forecasts, right? Rather than solving some equations on a computer, we are just using data with a neural network, right? But doing this, you actually get better accuracy, and everything is much cheaper, much faster.
As it stands now, the limit of predictability with the commonly used physics-based models is around 8 days. Hassanzadeh says the AI model expands the limit of predictability out to 9 days. That may not sound like much, just one extra day, but the real breakthrough is speed. These AI models can generate forecasts up to 100,000 times faster. So the advantage then becomes that you can generate many forecasts in the same amount of time. This shrinks the cone of uncertainty. So you may be wondering, is the need for human meteorologists going away?
I think actually now there is a higher demand for meteorologists and people who, that's what we are trying to do in this department. So we are trying to teach the students to, of course, still know the fundamentals, but also know AI and how this can come together, because I totally agree at the end of the day, to improve these models, even make better models, and also to properly use the current models, we certainly need experts to be in the loop.
Think of forecasting as a team sport.
Exactly. And frankly, it has been like that for a long time, like even in, around Second World War, as I mentioned, when it was really mathematicians, computer scientists, and meteorologists who worked together to get things to work on the first computer to do weather forecasting. But I think now we are back to, again, we need computer science, stat, math, and meteorology to work together to make the best use of these AI models.
We also spoke to Alexander Wickner, an Eric and Wendy Schmidt AI and Science Fellow at the University of Chicago, who took a hybrid approach to predict the probability of extreme heat hitting Chicago.
One of the biggest benefits that I see for AI forecasting models is that they can be much more flexible in terms of the type of data that they can be trained on when compared to the type of data that you might be able to input into a physics-based model. So that not only gives them the capability to perform very good global forecasts, but it also means that they can potentially be tailored to produce very good forecasts in specific regions or for specific for specific use cases where people might have certain types of data that they might not have been able to use before, but that can be used by an AI model to produce good forecasts.
Weather impacts just about everything and everyone. Hassanzadeh's latest research efforts have been to help farmers in India to be able to track monsoons using AI. A good weather forecast is also crucial to things like aviation, shipping, and public safety. The latest developments in AI could help forecasts become not just faster, but more useful. And for those of you who may be wary,
so I would say that in terms of the metrics of accuracy that we've been largely using to evaluate weather forecasting, AI models have already shown that they can match or improve upon the accuracy of physics-based models. That's not to say that there aren't some potential risks in using these models. We do need to keep this problem of potential gray swan events that the models may not have seen during training in the back of our heads, that if we're trying to use them to predict extreme weather, we should still be balancing what they see with a physics-based model, because the AI model might miss something. But overall, for most everyday weather forecasting tasks, these models seem to be doing very well, and they're likely going to be more and more incorporated into our forecasts going forward.
Joining us this morning is Chicago Wolves President of Operations, Courtney Mahoney, to break down a packed weekend both on and off the ice. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We got to start with these fantastic green jerseys, right? The team's going to be wearing these St. Patrick's Day jerseys this weekend to support autism awareness. Why was it so important for the club to support an organization and a cause like this?
You know, we take every opportunity to give back to charity, and Easter Seals, who's our partner in this, along with Jewel Osco, we've worked with them for almost 30 years on this endeavor. So while our games might not be conducive for kids on the spectrum and suffering from autism, we want to do our best to give back and raise as much money as possible. So the guys will wear the green jerseys, we'll do silent auction, blind auction, as much as we can to raise money for Easter Seals and autism awareness.
You mentioned that auction. Exactly how is that going to work if somebody watching at home wants to have one of these hanging up in their closet?
I love it. They should go to chicagowolves.com so you can, there's silent auction they can bid. The silent auction ends on Sunday at the end of second intermission, but we also have some guys that are wearing two different jerseys, so they'll wear one, like our captain Josiah Slavin will wear one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and then that auction ends. It's a blind auction, highest bid wins, and that ends on Monday at noon, and all that you can do online.
All that money going to a great cause.
You bet.
And this weekend, also at the arena, you got the Illinois State High School Championships happening there. What does that experience mean for these young kids to get to play on some professional ice?
We're super excited about it. We're privileged to host it, and we're going to treat it just like a Wolves game. We got our pyro, our lasers, and Wolfhead for intros. So Wayne Messmer singing the anthem. So it should be a really tremendous experience for them.
We just had Paul Chicago in Harris. We do every Thursday. You guys also have an Adopt a Dog night and a coffee mug giveaway. It really feels like you guys are making this something for everybody, not just what's happening on the ice.
We are packing it in. So yes, we have our favorite program, which is our Adopt a Dog program on Saturday, which is we have Border Tales Rescue and Right Way Rescue who bring dogs. We have, yes, Daniel Ian Goodman has a mug giveaway. We have a bobblehead from Republic Bank. So it's just been, it's everything possible is happening, and hopefully some good hockey and very good entertainment for you.
You mentioned that bobblehead is from Juha Jaska. I think I got his name
yeah,
right.
It's impressive.
Had to practice.
Yeah.
Right? For viewers who maybe don't follow the team closely, tell us a little bit about him and why was he selected for this bobblehead?
He's had a rough year. He hasn't played this year, but he's very charming. He had a really great year with us last year, and unfortunately has had a really bad injury. But the bobblehead is super cool, so people like that. And again, our hockey, the team's playing really well, so there's many to watch. And then Juha will be your number one next year when he's playing again.
What time are the games this weekend?
Saturday at 7 and then Sunday at 3.
And you can watch both of those games over on Fox Plus this weekend. I got to get my hands on one of those jerseys. Courtney?
Yeah, maybe.
Thanks so much for your time.
Definitely a bobblehead. Thank you.
Award season has made it stop here at the Actor Awards, where actors honor their fellow actors with, yes, the actor statue. Here are highlights from this year's show.
It was a big night for Sinners and a show about making movies.
The studio took Outstanding Ensemble in a Comedy Series. Seth Rogen won Male Actor, and the late Catherine O'Hara received Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Comedy Series. Accepting on her behalf, Rogan said O'Hara showed you can be a genius and be kind.
I've never been more proud of a group of people in my life.
In drama, The Pit took the ensemble trophy, Noah Wyle got the male actor kudos, and The Diplomat's Kerry Russell won female actor.
Up on the marquees.
The show was hosted for a third time by Kristen Bell.
It's a little weird to be getting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the half point of my career.
Harrison Ford was honored with the SAG-AFTRA Life Achievement Award. On the film side, Sinners won the top title of Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. Per Variety, Ryan Coogler made history, becoming the first director of 2 Best Ensemble winners with this and Black Panther.
Mom, thank you.
Michael B. Jordan won Male Actor in a Leading Role, and among those he thanked, his date for the night, his mom.
Categorically changed by so many people in this room.
Hamnet's Jessie Buckley took Female Actor in a Leading Role, while supporting wins went to One Battle After Another's Sean Penn and Aunt Gladys herself, Weapons star Amy Madigan.
Wow!
That's a wrap on the Actor Awards. Next up, the Oscars.
This has been your Fox Chicago Week in Review. See you next time.